I've been listening to Rage Against the Machine all day because that's how jacked up I am. We're also going to probably listen to some Clash, too, because I've been rocking out to that all day as well. Welcome in. Nuanez now, ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. I'm Colter Nuanez, coming to you from the Northwest Motorsport Studio. Northwest Motorsport boasts the largest inventory of trucks anywhere in the Pacific Northwest. You can find them online at nwmsrocks.com. They're the proud sponsor of the Nuanez Now studio. We're going to get to a ton of stuff today. Of course, you already know what week it is. It is state championship week around the state of Montana. That means at both the high school and the Big Sky Conference Division I levels. So we got a lot to get to today. We're going to get things started off with a bunch of rivalry game talk with Brooks Nuanez, SkylineSportsMT.com. It'll be our all football all the time, presented by SportsBet Montana. Also going to hear from Montana State head coach Brent Vegan. Talk to him on Monday, so we'll share that interview with you. We also have wings to the Desperado and basketball tickets for the University of Montana. They host Omaha in the evening, Saturday evening, after the football rivalry showdown. So we got some tickets to that one for the men's Grizz basketball team. And we're also going to get a little update about the Grizz soccer team. We talked a lot about them last week. They've sort of gotten overshadowed this week, but they played in the NCAA tournament over the weekend. And our producer, Andrew Houghton, was there, so we'll talk a little bit about that as well and get you all hooked up with a dozen wings from the Desperado Sports Tavern and Grill. It is a Wing It Wednesday. Usually, we'll be hooking those up with hockey tickets for Grizz hockey, but Grizz hockey off this weekend. So we'll give you an update of what's been going on with Grizz hockey a little later on as well, but stay tuned. About 4:45, 12 wings to the Desperado Sports Tavern and Grill, part of Wing It Wednesday. Hour number 2, a couple great head coaches, former head coaches within the Bobcat-Grizzly rivalry. We'll hear from Mike Kramer, who coached at Eastern Washington, Montana State, and Idaho State, a 4-time Big Sky Conference Coach of the Year, and absolutely one of my favorite guys. So excited to catch up with Krames. The big human is one of the funniest and most affable people you'll ever meet. So entertaining, such a good storyteller, a wonderful historian. And I know if you're a Grizz fan out there saying, why do we want the old Bobcat coach, especially a guy who beat Montana 3 times and a guy who snapped the streak. I'll tell you this, I know Mike Kramer very well. Coach Kramer has as much respect for the University of Montana and the Grizzlies as anybody that's ever been in the Big Sky Conference. And so he'll have some stories for us, but he'll also have some good diagnosis. I know he still pays attention to this stuff pretty well, too, so I bet you he even has a take on this game. And then we'll get this thing finished up here on a Wednesday with Joe Glenn, the man who led Montana to their most recent national championship. It seems as if the entire football world is descending upon Missoula, Montana, and that's very true because in Missoula and the surrounding areas, we got state championships at almost every level, including Montana State playing Montana for the 120th time. The Cat-Grizz rivalry renewed Saturday, Washington Grizzly Stadium at high noon, but there's a ton of other fun action in town as well with Missoula Sentinel gunning for a second straight Class AA state championship. Billings West is coming to town to take on the Spartans, a rematch of last year's state AA title game, and the first time Missoula has hosted a state championship game since 1994. We also have the Hamilton Bronx into the championship game for the 3rd time in the last 6 years. They play at defending champion Laurel for the Class A title. And then Florence, the Falcons, riding an 11-game winning streak. They will host Big Fork in the Class B championship on Saturday afternoon. And we also have another one in the Class C 8-man level as Drummond-Phillipsburg. That's Flint Creek, the co-op. They travel to Thompson Falls. The upstart Bluehawks moved down from Class B a couple years ago. Now they will host the Class C 8-man game against a Flint Creek squad that's gunning for their 3rd championship in the last 4 years. So an opportunity, regardless of who wins that Class C game, because Thompson Falls is pretty close to Missoula, but seems as if that we could have 4 state champions from 1 hour radius. Pretty cool. We welcome now another guy who's making his way to Missoula right now. He's Brooks Nuanez, SkylineSportsMT.com. He's my brother and our go-to guy when we're talking all things football. This is All Football All the Time, presented in part by SportsBet Montana. All your betting needs, SportsBet Montana's got you covered. They got kiosks smattered around the entire state of Montana. Brooks, what's up, my man? I'm glad you're on your way to the Mecca that is the center of the football world in Missoula. How you doing?
Yes, sir, the Mecca of football in the state of Montana, and it's that time of year. Temperatures are dropping, the wind is blowing, it smells and feels like football, and by God, teams across the state of Montana are playing for a whole lot, Colter, and that is definitely the case for Montana and Montana State.
A ton of talk about Montana State in a minute, but it must be noted again, and we keep talking about this, but Brooks and I both played high school sports in Missoula. We fancy ourselves pretty good athletes. I was pretty good. Brooks was a very good athlete, and we had a lot of talented teammates and a lot of talented friends that went to other schools, and there was really no opportunity or even possibility for Missoula schools to be chasing football championships. I mean, my class at Big Sky back in the fall of 2004 was probably the one that chased it as successfully as most teams from around Missoula in the last 20 years until this recent era. And here we are. Missoula Sentinel is working on a dynasty. They have won 20 games in a row. They're gunning for a second straight Class AA state championship. So it's just crazy the way the world's changed, but it's also a huge testament to the way that Sentinel has revamped the athletic department culture that they have there with the Spartans. So what do you think of just Sentinel and their emergence as this Class AA power?
Well, it's really exciting, man. It's really exciting for the city of Missoula. We talk extensively about how high school sports in Missoula tend to somewhat get diluted due to the nature that in Missoula County, I believe there's 7 high schools. There might be an additional one. When you take in the Frenchtowns, the Loyola, the 3 AA schools, you go up to Tilly Swan, and there's all sorts of high schools that are drawing from the same pool of kids. So in that nature, a lot of times Missoula has struggled to find success deep into playoff football, even though there's so much talent. If you put all the kids on one team and made an all-star team from Missoula, it would be the best team in the state, or if not one of the 2 or 3 best teams in the state, no question, every single year for the last 25, 30 years. But in that case, Missoula has been kind of a basketball town. Sentinel and Hellgate have both had their runs in basketball with state titles at times in that same time period. But it's really exciting to see Sentinel establish that culture with a lot of ex-Grizz players in the fold, within the track and field program, within the football program, and some leadership up top with athletic directors and administrative purposes there. So it's awesome. It's great for the city of Missoula to play meaningful Friday night football and to chase titles. I mean, it's a sports-driven town that has been thirsty for that kind of stuff. So I'm very happy to see it happen.
Also, you can't really underrate the fact that they've revamped the youth football program, so they actually learn how to play real football. So Missoula youth football, don't need to go down that road too much right now, but it is worth noting that has been a huge contributor to the success of not only Missoula Sentinel, but a lot of these teams from around the area as well. I mean, Florence is only 16 miles from Missoula, so those kids are playing in the same feeder programs as well, so that's definitely helped. Brooks Nuanez joining us here on Nuanez Now, ESPN Missoula, SWX Montana Television. It's state championship week around the state of Montana and at the college level. So here we are, the 120th rendition of the rivalry between Montana State and Montana. Brooks, a ton to talk about, a lot of details to get to, but your broad thoughts on the renewal of a rivalry here in Missoula at long last.
Well, I can't believe how much I missed it with the year off, right? I mean, gosh, it's something that we all look forward to. It's to me, it's the turning point of the year. It's right after daylight savings time. It's right before Thanksgiving. Kind of the culmination of so many different parts of the year, of the calendar year, let alone the football year. It's a turning point in the state of Montana into winter, which we hunker down and we become community oriented with our neighbors and our friends, and we survive together. And there's this element of, at this point in the season, you've survived thus far. Now you let it all go. You get to play one football game for all the marbles, and we can't overemphasize how important it is in the state of Montana, but how important it is in the college football landscape, not just the FCS. It's one of the most important college football games played every single year, and there's no different this year. We have some huge stakes on the line here for 2 of the better teams we've covered. And, Colton, we talk about this a lot, but I hope to say that every year, and it won't be hyperbole, is that every year as the programs continue to build, you hope to say that these are some of the better teams I've covered in recent memory. Certainly the case in 2021 with the Grizz and the Cats, who are both playing extremely high level of football with talent up and down the roster.
The fact of the matter is, you're right. Montana State's number 3 in the country right now, 7-0 in Big Sky Conference play. They already have 9 victories. There's no question they're already into the playoffs. I think there's almost no question that they already have a playoff seed secured. Montana, despite a lot of their struggles and a lot of their turmoil and a lot of their adversity that they've had to endure, mostly stemming from injuries, but also stemming from the pressure that came with beating a ranked FBS squad to start the season when they toppled the Washington Huskies. But Montana now sits here as the number 7 team in the country, and they're 8-2 overall, and they have almost certainly already secured a playoff berth. And I think that they have an outside chance of getting a bye, win or lose, and they certainly will get a bye if they win. The fact that this game is for potentially a share of the Big Sky title, potentially a playoff bye, and certainly jockeying in the playoff picture, that's a good thing for this rivalry, right?
it's everything, man. It's the most important thing that could happen to the Big Sky Conference. It's one of the most important things that could happen at Montana and Montana State, is for both of these programs to be playing at a very high level and to have national success, because as we've talked about, it is the front door to these universities. It is the backbone of recruiting, not only student athletes, but students in general. It is a temperature gauge of the health of a university. As you start to talk about, you have successful football programs, successful athletic departments, then all of a sudden people are invested in with their time, their extracurricular time, their time outside of class, their time as community members. They're invested in one central idea. And oftentimes in the state of Montana, it happens to be football. And oftentimes when the football is good, everything else kind of follows right behind it.
Well, let's talk about this exact ball game. A lot of similar strengths, a lot of similar concerns. So we'll get into some guided matchups here in a minute. But in your mind, when you think about this matchup just between the two teams on paper, the X's and O's, the schematics, what are the key matchups in this ball game?
Well, I mean, I think defensively it's going to be a showdown. I think both teams are going to come out with their hair on fire. I don't really see it going any other way. But overall, I mean, Montana has played so defensively against the run this entire season, and Montana State has been able to run it up and down every single team they have played to the tune of 250-plus yards a game. A top 5 rusher in the entire nation in Isaiah Infante. To me, it's probably the number one matchup is can the Grizz, hold Montana State some kind of regular running fashion. I don't know if that could happen because Montana State runs it so prolifically, so prevalently, so often. But that, I think, is probably the key matchup, is that great Grizz run defense against the Montana State offense. And vice versa, then you got to worry about, what Montana has done with their running offense and their offensive line up front. The Grizz have not been as stout as years past, and Montana State's front seven is by far the strength of their team. That is another key matchup. So, both sides of the ball have them, but I would say probably the key to the game would be Montana State's running attack against Montana's stout defensive run, being so stout playing the run defense.
Nuanez now, ESPN Missoula, SWX Montana Television. Brooks Nuanez joining us on the Rankins Brothers RV phone line. Recording this earlier in the week. We got to tell you that now, FCC regulations. But Brooks is on his way to Missoula. We'll have full coverage for you of this rivalry game all throughout the week, leading up to the game. And then, of course, on Saturday as well, SkylineSportsMT.com, as well as here on ESPN Radio and SWX Montana Television. And Brooks, the matchup you just addressed is such a paramount one because not only are those two of the best in terms of units on a national level, Montana, a top 5 rush defense in the country, Montana State, a top 5 rushing offense in the country, but Montana State has averaged 340-plus yards rushing in the last 4 Bobcat Grizzlies showdowns. They have, quite frankly, embarrassed Montana in the way that they have beat them down at the line of scrimmage, at the point of attack. It's something that's caused great glee among Bobcat fans, great consternation among Grizz fans. But this Grizz defense, they still have the same defensive coordinator in Kent Bear. Their personnel is objectively much different, though, and the personnel being different has made the scheme change a little bit. Still a lot of high pressure, a lot of blitzing, a lot of pre-snap movement, a lot of post-snap movement. But the story the last couple years was Montana State's gap scheme completely exploiting Montana's gap aggression, I should say. I guess that's the way that I would put it. A lot of times the Grizz were over-aggressive, and the patience and the pace of the Bobcat run game, particularly with its pulling guards, was a nightmare for the Grizz and a dream come true for the Bobcats. We got a new OC in Bozeman and Taylor Housewright. Not nearly as much gap scheme stuff offensively, and even though Kent Bear is still the DC at Montana, it seems like they have a little bit more diversity in their ability to run fit and make tackles both in the box and in space. So what do you think of just the kind of differences in scheme? It seems to me, even though it is strength versus strength, Montana State doesn't quite have that schematic advantage that they've had the last couple years in this matchup.
Yeah, I'd agree with you, Colt, with TJ Sessions getting knocked out at last game at right tackle and moving some different pieces around. Justice Perkins, a really young guy from Bozeman who's getting his first whacks at starts this season. So there's some new pieces to that offensive line that the continuity has changed a touch. And Grizz defensively, you said it right, Coulter, as far as, their gap aggression. It's not necessarily the most gap sound of defenses in the sense that they don't really just play the 11, 12 gaps that are on the field and rush you to the sideline like the Grizz have in years past. They have guys who are responsible for multiple gaps. They also blitz so much on running downs as well as passing downs, but they blitz so much on any and every down. Your gap is then kind of assigned due to the blitz. Any kind of getting off track or changing your path of attack then throws off the whole scheme of the blitz. they do play the run so effectively with their pressure, and Coach Brent Vegan at Montana State called it how kept over and over saying how disruptive they are. And I think it's the perfect way to say it. But Montana State isn't quite as prolific up front, and Montana is a little bit more sure-footed on their defensive. So I do agree. It's probably balanced out a touch, even though Montana State, it's such an impressive running offense that, they're still going to get yards. And will it be to the tone of, as you mentioned, 350-plus yards in every game in the last 4 seasons against the Grizz? Hard to say if it'll get to that level, but I know that they will have success at points of the game. It's whether or not the Grizz can bow up and maybe get some third down stops on 3rd and short.
Brooks Nuanez joining us here on Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television, all football, all the time, presented in part by the Blue Turf Sportsbook at Northern Quest Casino. If you're in the Spokane area, you can go make all your bets either pregame or in-game with the Blue Turf Sportsbook at Northern Quest. And Brooks, there's one thing that's so interesting when it comes to statistical analysis, because not all schedules are created equal, not all matchups are the same when you talk about conference teams, even when you get to the final game of the regular season. So although these two teams are surging, Montana is a phenomenal run defense. They also rank higher in the run defense because they haven't played a couple of the best rushing teams in the league, specifically the Cats. They also did not play Weber State. There's a lot of different statistical skews, but what I'm getting at here is that I don't think the Grizz defense has faced a rushing attack like the Bobcat offense, but I also don't think that either of these teams have faced defenses of the caliber that they're about to face today, or I guess on Saturday. The Grizz offense has struggled mightily, but they have looked better the last couple weeks. They've gotten back on track. But how much of that is playing Northern Colorado and Northern Arizona rather than some of the better teams in the league? The fact of the matter is that Montana has not played the teams that hang their hat on defense in this league. UC Davis is actually winning with defense a little bit more now. Montana State, Weber State, of course. So, even Sac State is okay defensively, pretty good. And Eastern Washington, not that great. And those are the best opponents Montana's played. So where are we at with that element? Because the Grizz offense has looked better in recent weeks, yet they have never faced a defense like the Bobcats.
Yeah, Coulter, it's the real deal, the Bobcat defense. The team as a whole is the real deal. In the last 4 seasons when Montana State's gone 4-0, I think that, without Troy, you could maybe say Troy Anderson's not going to have the ball in his hands, but outside of that element, I think it's the best Bobcat team that the Grizz have seen in the last 5 years. So that is definitely a factor. I don't know how much it plays into. I love getting into the schedule analysis and breaking it all down, and I'm always about that all year. And I'm definitely not a guy that leans on you throw all that stuff out when it comes to this game. I definitely don't think that. But when you're talking about Northern Arizona and Northern Colorado, talking about the Grizz giving up 34 to Eastern, but also being able to score 28 against that defense, all that stuff you can kind of compare and contrast. This is a whole new element, a whole new beast that Montana's going to see as far as the talent and the scheme. Scheme-wise, it's just a different scheme than they've really played against. It's a different scheme than most people run, what Montana State does on defense. It's a 4-2-5, where Montana on defense is running a 3-3-5, a unique 3-3-5 stack, which is a very specific style of defense. Montana State has a very specific style of defense as well in the 4-2-5. Those are much different than what they've run in the past as well. Montana State primarily has been running a hybrid 3-4 with the outside edge defender that stands up, which is so significantly different than the two interior defensive tackles. So Montana State has a whole new thing that Montana has not seen this year and also has not seen in the past. We can say Montana State, their greatest strength is their run defense. It might be their front seven on defense, to be completely honest.
Well, let's play a little game here now as we finish up here our All Football All the Time Cat Grizz edition here on Nuanez Now. We're not going to hash out what this means more than just straight up pick them. We're going to go position group versus position group, not this versus that when the Grizz are on offense or the Cats are on offense. We're just talking across the board. So we'll start with offensive lines. Are you taking the Montana State or the Montana offensive line?
We'll go Montana State due to experience.
Totally agree. Montana State has a couple premier players in Taylor Tuiasosopo and Lewis Kidd, a couple senior leaders. And the Grizz, they also have a couple senior leaders in Conlon Beaver and Dylan Cook, the two tackles. Cook's status remains up in the air. He hasn't played the last 2 games. His return will be essential because Brandon Casey, a freshman, has gotten thrown to the Wolves. And getting thrown to the Wolves against David Hogue at Northern Colorado, that's a challenge. But it ain't Daniel Hardy and Amandre Williams. So I agree. I think Montana State does have a little bit of an advantage, maybe a lot of an advantage on the offensive line. Quarterback, got Cam Humphrey back in the fold of Montana. Matt McKay in the fold for the Grizzlies, who has the advantage when it comes to the quarterback position.
If Cam Humphrey's healthy and can stay healthy, I'm going to take Cam Humphrey. I think he can push the ball down the field, especially during the middle of the field, a little bit more effectively than Matt McKay. If you would have asked me 4 or 5 weeks ago, I would have taken Matt McKay. His efficiency was off the charts, but he's struggled the last 4 weeks. Ever since Weber State, they stuck out of there on the road with a 3-point win, Matt McKay has struggled to find a true rhythm, and they have actually played multiple quarterbacks in light of that. So I'm going to take Cam Humphrey there.
I agree as well. I think the Cam Humphrey actually somehow is underrated, even though it's because Montana doesn't want to have their quarterback be the key to them winning. So then somehow Humphrey is somehow underrated, even though I actually think he's one of the better quarterbacks in the league. So I agree with you. Montana takes the advantage at quarterback. How about running back? Isaiah Fonse, questionable for this game. I think he's going to play. I think the Grizz think he's going to play. I think the Bobcats think he's going to play. Elijah Elliott, probably between questionable and doubtful for the Bobcats. And then Lame Sumner, a fully capable third-string guy. He would actually probably be a first or second string guy at most of the schools around the Big Sky Conference. And on the Montana side of things, they've got quite a few guys back. I think they're expecting Xavier Harris and Isaiah Childs to both buoy the workload with Junior Bergen for sure, and maybe even Nick Osmo as well. So maybe a four-headed monster at running back for the Grizz. Where are we at with the running backs in this rivalry?
Taking Isaiah Fonse and Montana State Bobcats. Fonse has gotten better and better and better every year. You guys have heard me say this on this show, on Skyline Sports. He is the best running back in the Big Sky Conference, I think, by arms and heads and shoulders. And I think he's probably the best running back in the country at the FCS level. I think he's that good. I've seen him play a ton. I've seen him play 25-plus games in his career. He's the real deal, man, in Montana. Due to a bunch of attrition and injuries and, probably the one downfall of their season that they haven't been able to get the running game truly going, and that's just due to playing a converted receiver, freshman and Junior Bergen, and a couple other freshmen at times. And Isaiah Childs has come along a little bit, which he's looked good. But they're missing their big dogs. Marcus Knight and Nick Osmo aren't in this game. And, those have been really important players for them the last 2 years. So Montana State gets the nod.
All right, let's talk about wide receivers and tight ends. Montana State's playing a bunch of tight ends, and they got some talented ones led by Derek Snell, an Alaska product, and Trayton Pickering from up on the High Line, Sunburst, Montana. And, of course, Brian Davis, the guy who never catches passes but always starts games and always knocks heads, the big senior from Billings. And then, of course, a wide receiver, Lance McCutcheon, a Bozeman product, having one of the breakout seasons in all the Big Sky Conference. On the Grizz side of things, Sammy Akim has the talent to be one of the best guys in the league. He's come on really strong in the last couple weeks. They also have an unbelievable talent in Cole Grossman, who's definitely chugging toward becoming a first-team All-League caliber type talent. He's torn it up the last month or so. He's got 5 touchdowns in the last 6 weeks, and he's been one of the premier targets, especially when it comes to catching passes from his roommate, Cam Humphrey. Then, of course, you got Mr. Steady, Mitch Roberts, Missoula Sentinel product, who leads the Grizzlies in catches. As far as the guys that are catching the ball, where are we at between the Cats and the Grizz?
Colton, I think Cole Grossman's, the most exciting player of that entire group as far as what his ceiling could be compared to what he was in the start of the season or maybe last year. Talent is off the charts, and he's really starting to come into his own. But Montana State has so much depth and so many different styles of tight ends that I'll give Montana State the nod there just because they have multiple offensive linemen that play the position, and they have several guys that can catch the ball as well. So that one's close. I'm going to give that nod to Montana State. And then Montana is going to win that receiver battle. Sammy Akim and Mitch Roberts are the two best receivers in this game. No, don't get it twisted. Lance McCutcheon is the real deal and having a great season. Sammy Akim is the most talented player in this game, potentially. It's going to be a short list of him and Troy Anderson, Isaiah Fonse, and, O'Connell and Jace Lewis, and a couple guys on that short list, and Sammy Akim's one of them, so I'll give the Grizz the nod for outside pass catchers.
All right, switching over to the defense quickly. The defensive lines, Montana State, they got Chase Benson, the best inside guy in the league. Daniel Hardy, a leader for Defensive Player of the Year honors. Amandre Williams, a potential All-League guy, former transfer from Washington. The Grizzlies, better up front, boosted by a couple FBS transfers in Justin Belknap and Joe Babros. I think Alex Gubner is one of the most improved players in the league. The nose tackle, Eli Alford, questionable for this game. He's been good, too, though, at that interior position as well. Jacob McGoring, another guy that the Grizz bring off the bench on the front. But I think this one's a no-brainer. I'll let you go ahead. Who's got the advantage on the defensive line?
Well, you're making me pick between some pretty dominant football players, Colter.
No question.
Advantage is the fact that they're not going to go against each other. They have matchups that they're each going to have to deal with. I think Montana State has the nod there. So much depth, so much talent. Potentially 3 first-team All-League guys, and that is no knock to the Grizz defensive front, which is one of the most talented groups in the entire Big Sky Conference. So really, it's very close, and I don't want to make it seem like it's not, but Montana State has so much talent there.
And this is the most interesting one now, the linebackers, because I think that Troy Anderson is the best talent in the country, period. The guy doesn't even practice, and he's going to be a unanimous first-team All-League inside linebacker at a position he struggled at the first month of the season. Now these last couple weeks, 15, 16, 17 tackles. He's about 2 plays away from having 3 pick sixes this year. He's crazy. He's unbelievable. Callahan O'Reilly, also one of the best and most improved players in the Big Sky Conference. That said, I think 3 of the 5 best linebackers in the league play for the Grizz, including, I think, the 2 best linebackers in the league other than Troy Anderson, Jace Lewis and Patrick O'Connell. Marcus Wilnell's right there. Marcus Wilnell would be the best linebacker on every team outside of the state of Montana, I think, in the Big Sky Conference. So this one is an unbelievable one when you come to picking the advantage here.
Man, I don't know if I can, on live radio to dissect that much talent. Troy Anderson's the best player of that group of players, and that's kind of unsaid. We've all seen it. Anyone who's listening in the city of Missoula can think of the times that Troy Anderson has played well against the Grizz and against a lot of other teams. He is on the level, on the very short list of the Cooper Cups of the world, as far as historic players to ever play the Big Sky Conference. He is that level of talent. But overall, I agree. I think the next 3 best players after Troy Anderson are those 3 Grizz linebackers. Gosh dang, it's close. I give it to the Grizz just because I don't necessarily think that Montana State has that 3rd and 4th linebacker, same as Montana does. But if you let me have a picket coin toss, I'd lean that way. But those 3 guys for the Grizz are pretty darn good.
Yeah, probably one of the determining factors there, too, is Nolan Askelsons, who's an awesome linebacker for the Cats, is hurt, and he's out. A Billings senior product. And you look at some of the backup guys for the Grizzlies, like Levi Janicaro and Braxton Hill from Missoula and Anaconda, respectively, and those 2 guys sort of buoy that rank. So I think a slight edge for the Grizzlies, I agree. And how about then the secondary? Because this is a couple secondaries that include some influx of talent, some homegrown talent as well. On the Grizz side of things, you got Robbie Houck, a returning All-American at safety, but he's also buoyed by Gavin Robertson and Garrett Graves and Natch Fouch. And then the corners have been very good. Omar Hicks-Anu, Trajan Cotton, Corbin Walker. A couple of those guys are FBS drop-downs from Oregon State. And then on the other side of the thing, you got one of the best safety tandems, or I guess safety trios in the league, in Ty Okada, who I think is a first-team All-League guy this year. Trey Webb, transfer from San Jose State. Jeffrey Manning, a transfer from Oregon State. And then a couple guys that have not gotten a lot of attention because they've been so good. That's the corners at Montana State. Simeon Woodard has been very good. Eric Zambrano's been solid, filling in for some veteran guys. Tyrell Thomas hasn't played much, but they haven't needed him as much either. And then, of course, James Campbell, a converted wide receiver, has been very good this year at corner as well. So where are we at with the secondary of these 2 teams?
Well, it's another one of those pick-ups, but I'm going to split those 2 groups, and I'm going to give Montana the nod at safety just because they do play 3 safeties. The Grizz do, too. The Robbie Houck, Nash Fouch, Garrett Graves is a great combo, but as you mentioned, I think Ty Okada is the best nickel in the conference, and Jeffrey Manning has been elite safety. So just for levity's sake, I'm going to split the 2 and give the nod to Montana State safeties, and then you missed Justin Ford.
Of course, how could I miss him?
How could you miss him? And then you said those other 3 guys with a lot of depth there. Montana State's corners have played well. They're really young. They've played way over their heads as far as the ability and kind of the ceiling that they've reached as young players. Montana has more depth there. So Montana State safeties, Montana corners.
Well, then, basically what we're saying is this thing is even across the board, and we're running out of time, so we can't really dissect the special teams, but I think that we would both agree. I think that Kevin Macias, the grad transfer from Arizona State, has been very good, and Blake Glessner has been one of the surprises in the league this year as a freshman at Montana State. And then the punters, holy cow, man. The 2 punters are 2 of the best guys on the teams. Brian Buscini, lights out. Bryce Layton throwing darts. So those 2 guys have been awesome. And then you look at the special teams units, the kick coverage units. I think that Tommy Malott from Montana State and Levi Janicaro from Montana, a couple former high school quarterbacks, have been 2 of the best guys in the league, covering kicks as well, and those units have been solid across the board. So I think this is all to say that when you go matchup by matchup, position group by position group, all the different things that can play out in this game, there's a stalemate, man, and that's why we cannot wait for this game on Saturday in Missoula. It's Brooks Nuanez, SkylineSportsMT.com, joining us here on ESPN Missoula, man. Can't wait for the rest of the week. Thanks so much for being here, man, and any last thoughts on this matchup on Saturday?
It's going to be a showdown, man. These are really, really, really good teams. Some of the best teams we've ever covered, Colter. And that's not hyperbole. That's not recency bias. These are some of the most talented teams we have ever seen. I love the fact that it very well and very likely will come down to a guy that comes off the bench, a guy that's a second stringer, a special teams player. It might come down to Tommy Malott. Might come down to Malik Flowers or Braxton Hill. It could come down to so many different players that are likely going to carve out a little piece of history, and that's why we do it. That's why we'll be there. Couldn't look more forward to it.
You can find all our stuff, including Brooks' amazing photography and good podcast content on SkylineSportsMT.com. Drive safe, man. See you soon. There you go. Brooks Nuanez, SkylineSportsMT.com. Breaking down the Bobcat Grizz game. One of my favorite things we do this week. It takes forever. I've been working on it since Sunday, but we got them posted. Little capsules with photographs and links to all sorts of good content, but more importantly, all 91 in-state products that play for both the Grizzlies and the Bobcats. The Grizz come into this game, 53 guys from in the state of Montana. Montana State, 38 guys, so a total of 91 in-state products playing in the game on Saturday. You want to check out a little synopsis of each one of their seasons, as well as photography of each one and interview links and all sorts of other stuff. Go to SkylineSportsMT.com. Montana made, one of our favorite things. Montana State head football coach Brent Vegan will coach in his first Cat Grizz game on Saturday. What did he have to say earlier this week? Keep it right here, ESPN Radio. Buying or selling a home can be an intimidating task. Brent Wahlberg and the Wahlberg team of Windermere Real Estate are here to make you feel comfortable no matter where you're at in the process. The official realtors of Grizzly Athletics have more than 4 decades of experience in Western Montana. Brent and his team can not only find you your perfect home or buyer, but they can also teach you about the great city of Missoula and its tradition-laden sports teams. The Wahlberg team works as a family to help fulfill your real estate needs all over Western Montana. If you need help with residential, land, investment, or commercial, give Brent Wahlberg and the Wahlberg team a call today. Paul Ryan is a name that's been synonymous with law around the Garden City for decades. And Paul is excited to announce the expansion of his firm to Ryan, Holloway, and Miller. Paul Ryan, Nate Holloway, and Angie Miller have a fierce love for their community, and they want to help you with any of your legal needs. From auto accidents to medical malpractice to wrongful death or any criminal defense, Ryan, Holloway, and Miller should be your first call. When it comes to personal injury or criminal defense, call Ryan, Holloway, and Miller today. Ryan, Holloway, and Miller, your Montana attorneys.
Choosing where to bank is a no-brainer. Choose the bank that's been helping Western Montana grow since 1907. Choose Farmer State Bank. We have a lot more to offer than just history. Count on Farmer State Bank for innovative traditional, mobile, and online products designed to meet your needs. For personal banking options or business solutions, choose Farmer State Bank. 9 brick-and-mortar locations and online at farmersebank.com. An equal housing lender and member FDIC.
Fresh ingredients combined with home-style recipes are what we're serving on the Montana Club's Fall Comfort Food Menu. Warm up with the Osso Buco or hearty chicken fried chicken, or savor our hot in the skillet chicken pot pie. Of course, cool days call for yummy desserts. Cap things off with the club's creamy pumpkin skillet a la mode or skillet apple pie. Visit your Montana Club today. Full menu at montanaclub.com. The Montana Club on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
Here at Florence Coffee, we take pumpkin serious, offering a variety of pumpkin lattes, chais, and frappes. They're all made with our real pumpkin to give your drink that genuine and satisfying fall pumpkin taste. Also try our all-natural pumpkin spice flavoring made from real spices and extracts. If you're ready for something pumpkin, you're ready for Florence Coffee. Go to any location or FlorenceCoffeeCo.com.
Under the big sky, Florence Coffee Company.
Football is back, and Nuanez now has everything you need to know about the weekend that was for the Grizzlies, the Bobcats, around the Big Sky Conference, and around the Treasure State in prep ranks too. Join Coulter Nuanez, Riley Corcoran, and other contributing guests for the first hour of each Monday's Nuanez Now for compelling analysis, interesting information, interviews, and more. The Montana Football Hour, the first hour of each Monday's Nuanez Now, beginning at 4 p.m. on 102.9 ESPN Missoula and statewide on SWX Montana Television. Presented by Brett's RV and Marine.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
The collection of local standout football players gave pledges to both the Bobcats and the Grizzlies. Hello, I am Coulter Nuanez. The most recent commitment came earlier this week as Laurel senior Bo Dantic gave his promise to Montana head coach Bobby Houck. Dantic, who's rushed for nearly 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns this season, has helped the Locomotans reach the chipper for the second year in a row. Dantic is one of 11 known commitments for the upcoming recruiting class, including Hillgate wide receiver Ian Finch and Helena wideout Chase McGurran. Over the last 3 seasons, the 6'3" Finch caught 162 passes for for 2,741 yards and 28 scores. The 6-foot McGurran caught 58 passes for 829 yards and 10 touchdowns this season. The other in-state commits for the Grizz include Helena quarterback Caden Hewitt and Helena linebacker Marcus Evans, Hamilton athlete Tyson Rostad, Jefferson athlete Joey Visser, Missoula Sentinel athlete Zach Cruz, and Kalispell Glacier kicker Patrick Rohrbach. Missoula Hellgate lineman Tommy Nielsen gave his commitment to Montana State earlier this month. He joins other Bobcat in-state commits, including Gallatin tight end Rylan Schlepp, Red Lodge lineman Burke Mastel, Florence lineman Ethan Abbott, Billings West twins Caden and Taco Dowler, and Jake Deegan, the son of head coach Brent Deegan. The Bobcats play the Grizzlies for the 120th time on the football field, high noon. Watch the Grizzly Stadium on Saturday.
This 102.9 ESPN Missoula Sports Center is brought to you by Aspen Sound.
Nobody pray for me. It been a day for me. Yeah. Hey, I remember syrup sandwiches and crime allowances, finessing on them with some counterfeits, but now I'm counting this. Parmesan with my accountant lips. In fact, I'm down in this. You say with my boo babe tastes like Kool-Aid for the analyst. Girl, I can buy your Westie world with my base stuff. I know that it's good. Won't you sit it on my taste buds?
Man, sunshine, rivalry games, state championships. Got me some kind of mood. A little Kendrick Lamar for you on the way back on your Wednesday. Thanks so much for kicking with us. It's Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. I'm Colter Nuanez coming to you from the Northwest Motorsports Studio.
My left stroke just went viral.
Go check out Northwest Motorsport, corner of Stevens and Mount here in Missoula. You can also find them online, nwmsrocks.com. My 5-year-old nephew Ellis loves that song. Hip-hop for days, baby. Teach them when they're young. Across the sideline, and this one, a big one because it's the biggest game of the year in the state of Montana. Montana State travels to Montana to play the Grizzlies. Couple top 7 teams, couple playoff scenarios. We're joined now by Brent Deegan, the head coach of the Montana State Bobcats. And Coach, welcome to your first rivalry week. How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. You know, when we laid out what we hope this season will maybe look like, you know, I'd like to think we're exactly where we want to be. You know, knowing this game sat at the end of the regular season, obviously I think the rivalry and the Great Divide Trophy, everything there speaks for itself. But then to have a conference title on the line, certainly seeding for the playoffs on the line. I don't think we could ask for a better scenario.
Did you have any perception of the Montana State rivalry before you got to Montana State?
Well, it certainly knew it existed. Played against both schools twice each, I guess. But beyond that, maybe anything I would have known, I probably would have assumed, I guess. So it was made pretty clear to me right from the get-go, how much it matters. And honestly, that doesn't surprise me one bit. Growing up in a state where, the university and the state university are the highest teams, I guess. There's no pro sports. It's made for this. It's made for this to be the showcase, for the state, and especially a state like Montana where football is so important, and it's very comparable to North Dakota. That rivalry, I think, is in the rearview mirror. It's not what it was by any means, and this one has stood the test of time. And I think with where we're both at right now, ranked in the top 7, it's certainly shaping up to be a great matchup.
Brent Deegan joining us. Montana State plays at Montana, high noon, Washington Grizzly Stadium, the 120th edition of the Cat Grizz rivalry. And Coach, you mentioned it there in your press conference, but I think it's a fascinating dynamic when it comes to trying to handle it. The fact that so many people that support these two programs, they want to beat the other side as badly as anybody. That support is great, but sometimes it maybe even overwhelms the bigger picture. So how do you sort of balance that? Because there is a lot of passion behind it. I'm sure you love that, but also this is not an end-all be-all game.
No, that's right. It's important. There's a great deal of importance, put on this game, keeping that trophy here in Bozeman. but it's not our last game either. So we have to go in with a plan that we're going to win this football game, and there's a lot of reasons we need to win this football game. Because this rivalry is not just this one Saturday in November, it's an everyday affair, across the state, and certainly, we want to have the upper hand, and we want all our guys, no matter where they're from in Montana, to go back home and be able to, wave the flag, wear the colors, and I think that's very important. And we're pouring ourselves into this game, for all the reasons, the rivalry, the conference championship, the seeding. I mean, all that comes into play, and I'm just excited that we do have all that to play for. And there's beyond small towns being divided, there's families divided across the state, and we have a couple unique situations on our team. So it's look forward to it. These type of opportunities. It's really what college football, college sports, are all about. And I'm certain there's not too many across the land in whatever sport that could compare to the intensity, the importance that is brought out of the Brawl of the Wild.
One of my favorite parts about just this game in general is the guys that are from in-state, and sometimes, a lot of times, those guys play all the way outside of their minds. I mean, superhuman efforts, because it is such a big deal, something they've been dreaming about since they were little kids. How do you channel that, though, as a coach?
Well, that's a good point. I think you still, each player has to play within the confines of what you're asking them to do. But if you can get, that max execution coupled with max effort, there's no better Saturday to have that occur. And I think we got a group of guys. No one's going to go out there and try too hard. I don't even know what that means. I think our guys need to still keep the mindset that we do every week, that each play is its own. Good or bad, you gotta go play the next play. You gotta trust your teammates, trust your coaching. And I think those principles, no matter who we play, ring true. And if we squeeze a little bit more out of a few guys, and it shouldn't just be our Montana guys either. All our guys on our team represent Montana State, and it can be any one of our guys that steps up and adds themselves to the long history of this game.
Across the Sideline, presented in part by Mike Nugent and Berkshire Hathaway Real Estate, your local real estate experts. And, Coach, let's talk a little bit about this matchup. Brent Vegan, by the way, joining us, Montana State head football coach here on Nuanez now, ESPN Radio. The last couple Bobcat Grizzlies showdowns have included Montana State running the ball with authority and really dominating the physical element of the game. I know you guys still maintain that identity. You want to run the ball. But what do you think of just the challenge of your run game against a team that's, I think, in the top 5 in the country in rushing yards allowed, a really ferocious defensive front for the Grizzlies?
Well, it'll be a challenge, no question. I look at the makeup of their team and how they do things. It's stop the run, it's get after the passer. I think to be as balanced as possible on offense, and that's who we want to be as well. So, in games like this, it comes down to the discipline, the pad level, to being the more physical team. There's no doubt about that. And, their scheme and their players, for that matter, on defense, they really pose some problems. They're very aggressive with their scheme, and they have players within that scheme that play very aggressively and make plays. And we have to be, again, we have to be disciplined. We have to play with good pad level in our schemes, not try to do too much, and do the things that we don't have to, I guess, create a whole new way of doing things this week. If we do the things we want to do well, I think we're gonna like what we get out of that. If we don't do them well for whatever reason, then it's going to be a struggle because they have a good team, and they're not just a team made up of this great defense. That's just a portion of what they do well. They've been effective enough on offense, and then special teams wise, they've made a ton of plays as well.
Well, let's talk about the special teams because I do think that's a huge element in this game. A lot of times the momentum can swing on the special teams. Both these teams have been outstanding on special teams this year, so how much of a priority is that when you're preparing for this matchup?
Well, it is week in, week out for us. I think what we've done well is we've really covered well, and I think as of late, Bryce has really punted the ball well. I think from a return perspective, that's where I think they've really done an excellent job. I know they've blocked some kicks as well. So we got to have our guys positioned well, and certainly playing with passion. I think we got to be ready for whatever in a game like this. Whether that's blocks, fakes, anything and everything to come from the Grizz, and we have to play our game, and a lot of that's just about. It's about trust and effort, and we have a lot of our starters that make up the depth of our special teams, and they understand that play is every bit as important as the next play they might have on offense or defense, and that mindset isn't changing. I'm certainly hopeful we can get an explosive return in the mix. We've been close a few times, but in a game like this, close isn't going to cut it. So, it'll be really important. And that swing in special teams from a field position perspective, along with turnover margin, will be huge factors in this game.
When it comes to Bobby Houck, I know that you guys probably had some crossover when you were at Wyoming and he was at San Diego State. Any other times you guys have crossed paths? And how would you just describe Coach Houck's coaching style and the sort of the identity of the program he's built at Montana?
We'll certainly recognize the success he had in his first stint. And by the time we had gotten to Wyoming, I think that was his last year at UNLV, so we didn't play that year. But then, his time at San Diego State, we had some big matchups, in particular going back to 2016 when they beat us for the Mountain West Championship after we had beat them in the regular season. And I'm certain his time there made an impact, on the things that he really valued. San Diego State is an excellent program that while at Wyoming I had a tremendous amount of respect for because, their combination of what they did offensively, defensively, and special teams was what allowed them to be as consistent as any program in that conference during that stretch. And they're still they're ranked right now, I think, in one loss, and that's continued on with Coach Hoke there. So that's probably the biggest matchup. I know I worked with Pete Caligas, who had worked for Coach Houck that first stretch at Montana, so got to maybe know him just on the fringe a little bit there. And again, know more of him as just a hard nose. I know he was a special teams guy while he was out at San Diego State, and certainly he's got his fingerprints all over his team in his second run here at Montana, and has brought them back to prominence in pretty short order.
Brent Vegan joining us here at ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. Coach, you guys have such an awesome young and up-and-coming coaching staff, both your coordinators and their first time as full-time Division I coordinators. Montana, on the contrast, has such a veteran coaching staff. What do you think of just the dynamic of that, and what have you thought of just overall your guys and their ability to handle this first season as first-time coordinators?
Yeah, that's a great point, Colter. Yeah, you look at their staff, tons of experience, tons of, successful experience that he's been able to assemble there in Missoula, and I'm certain that's the model that he wanted to bring this program back to where it was when he left it. I know for us, I felt like in the two hires that I made at coordinator, hired guys that I knew, I felt like in my heart were ready for this opportunity, that I put a lot of trust into, and I really appreciated their efforts, not only on game days, but their leadership of the staff and the respective sides of the football from a week to week perspective. I know we have a blend of 5 new guys per se, and 5 guys that were on the previous staff, and how that's all come together is certainly credit to both coordinators, making it work. And I think at the same time, our players have been open-minded and bought into what was a significant amount of change, I think, at the end of the day, and really ran with it. So we're in this position because of that, the players trusting, but the coaches really leading, and while it hasn't been perfect, nothing is. I've been really pleased with how those 2 guys have shown out their first year.
Brett Vegan joining us here on ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. And 2 more things for you, Coach. One, I was getting a little sad last week because Chase Benson and Troy Anderson are 2 of my favorite players I've ever covered at any school in the Big Sky Conference. I just think those guys are awesome. I think their work ethic, their dedication, and just how tough they are, been tremendous. But I just want to ask you specifically about those 2, because it seems like they've really been the heart and soul of your defense, and this is probably going to be a very emotional and special moment for them on Saturday. So what are your hopes for those 2 guys in their final Bobcat Grizz game?
Well, I first off, that they can leave this deal undefeated in that game. That's the first thing. I'm sure that's the first thing they would both say as well. But those 2 week in, week out have been so impactful, and 2 different deals as far as the recognition. I think Troy's, I think he's out there running sideline to sideline. It's pretty easy for anybody in the stands to see the impact that he makes all over the place. And then on the flip side, Chase has been, such a key component, and he's where it begins for us. His ability to disrupt up front allows us to do, different things as you move on back, linebackers into the secondary, and toughness, unselfishness. When both of them speak, everybody's going to listen. Because when they do speak, it's something that matters, something that is from the heart, something that it comes out of, their experience, being young players and being a big part of the build here. And they want nothing more than to, I know, leave this place better than they found it, and they're going to do that. But I know they have big things in mind, and one of them, is certainly, for their careers to say that they never lost in this game, and that's what's right in front of us. There's things beyond that. I think for both of them to be conference champions, I think would be really important, and then, see where we can take this beyond that. But, they're all about this program, all about the team, and they've given so much, and hopefully we can just continue this on for both of them and the remainder of that very special group of 5th and 6th year guys that we have.
Well, last thing for you, Coach. The fact is that both these teams, at least in my estimation, are playoff teams already, and so there's a lot on the line in this game. But what sort of vault do you think this could give you into the postseason, and how big would that be if you guys want to fulfill the goals that you have on your mind?
Well, it'd be huge. I think we looked at a late season schedule that included a trip to Ogden, a trip to Cheney, and then a trip to Missoula, and with a couple games at home in between, and we've been able to find a way on those other 2 road trips to win games that or beat teams, I guess, that these guys hadn't beaten, and here sits the biggest one of them all. And I think it would be a tremendous boost, and I know our guys respect the Grizz and their ability and what they've done this year, and understand that we're going to have to play really well, and that'll be the same moving forward as we get those opportunities in the playoffs, and to some degree I think we've probably felt like we've been playing playoff football for a little while now, and this is the next one up, and it's the most important one that we've had to this point. So we got to go out and rise to the occasion, take on a very good team, a tremendous challenge in a hostile environment. And, you make it through games like this, you continue to, galvanize, I guess, what type of team you have, and just that inner belief is that builds that much more.
Well, Coach, we appreciate you taking so much time. I know it's a very busy week for you, and we'll look forward to seeing you this weekend. In the meantime, best of luck with all the preparation and all the hype, and the best of luck on Saturday.
All right. Thanks a lot, Coulter. Go Cats.
So you go, Brent Vegan. Biggest game of his life coming up on Saturday. You don't know till you know, and then maybe you still don't even know. We got to get to it. Nuanez Now keeps rolling on.
Hi there, it's Les Schwab Tires, introducing the new Backcountry AT2 for a quieter ride with improved performance in wet conditions. Because when it comes to keeping your family safe on the road this winter, the right tires help you feel prepared for anything.
Mom, hey Mom.
Well, almost anything. Plus, save up to $130 when you buy Quatrack tires with financing. Les Schwab Tires. Limited time offer, terms and conditions apply. See leschwab.com/sale for details.
Are you ready to step up your hair game but just not sure where to go? Well, Compass Barbershop, recently voted one of Missoula's best barbershops, is here for you. For the precision cut you're looking for, you've got to find your way to Compass Barbershop, Missoula's retro barbershop and salon for everyone. It's easy to schedule your appointment online at compassbarber.com. For more details, you can find them on Facebook or Instagram. Find your way to Compass Barbershop, open Monday through Saturday on the Hip Strip at the corner of modern and retro.
Do you remember how fond you were of your baseball cards as a kid? To recapture that feeling, swing into Zootown Sports Cards. Missoula's premier trading card shop carries all the products you will need for collecting, whether you are renewing an old hobby, just getting started, or looking for a fun activity for your kids. With inventory that is updated regularly, Zootown Sports Cards has the best selections at the best prices anywhere in the valley. Open from noon till 6 on Tuesday through Friday and 10 to 6 on Saturdays. Come check out Zootown Sports Cards at South Avenue in Higgins, across from Dornblazer Field. Coulter Nuanez here from your favorite daily sports talk show, Nuanez Now. I know most of you are like me. You keep your precious car outside in this frigid Montana weather. If you want to change your outlook on those freezing Monday mornings, do what I did. Get yourself an automatic car starter at Aspen Sound. Aspen Sound will install the starter for you efficiently and keep you warm. Aspen Sound can also hook you up with sweet window tinting or a top-notch sound system for your vehicle. Stop by Aspen Sound at 1300 West Broadway in Missoula today.
Feel the music at Aspen Sound.
Open your new Stockman Bank account anytime, anywhere with online account opening. Now, you can open an account in minutes on your laptop, tablet, or mobile phone. It's convenient, simple, and secure. Open your new account today at stockmanbank.com. Then, add our online and mobile banking services so you can manage your money when, where, and how you want. Stockman Bank, Montana's brand of banking. Member FDIC.
Missoula has always held a wonderful reputation as a runner's haven, a place where those who like to jog along the river and those that like to bound around the trails thrive. From the dedicated weekend warriors of our Montana communities to the exceptional college and high school running talents from across the Treasure State, many of the best athletes are the runners in and around Western Montana. Tune into Nuanez Now, twice a month for River City Runners, a local segment about the Montana running community. River City Runners is proudly presented by Zootown Sports Cards.
Nuanez Now on ESPN Radio.
Cut it, cut it. Them bricks is way too high, you need to cut it. Your price is way too high, you need to cut it.
Winning, bought a Nana, living with my trap money. A million up, but still ain't never touched my rap money. I'm out in LA with that boy OT.
Did you know it's basketball season? It is. College basketball is upon us as well. Even though we are so dominated by football, that's a wonderful thing. Chris Hoops is rolling. We got tickets for you. Welcome back. Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. I'm Coulter Nuanez, coming to you from the Northwest Motorsports Studio. The old nightcap after the Montana State football game on Saturday? Well, how about we send you down to the Adams Center to watch the Grizzlies take on Omaha. Omaha's very good. I watched Omaha in non-conference games against many Big Sky Conference schools. relatively close to this region, and they're always competitive. They play a really entertaining style. They get up and down. So we got a 4-pack of tickets to the Grizz men's basketball game against Omaha, 7 p.m. Saturday night at Dahlberg Arena. Give us a call right now. We got caller number 2, 406-888-1029. That's 888-1029. Call us right now. We got a 4-pack of tickets for you to the Grizz versus Omaha men's basketball game Saturday night at Dahlberg Arena. We're up against it, so we're going to circle back around, get to some Grizz hockey and some Grizz soccer and some Grizz hoops as well. But hour one's in the books, and hour two's coming at you with one of my favorite guys, Mike Kramer, resident historian for the Big Sky Conference, a 4-time Big Sky Conference Coach of the Year, and a guy that has a great deal of reverence for the greatest rivalry in all of the Big Sky Conference. The Big Human on Nuanez now. Keep it right here, ESPN Radio.
You know what you need. You're a contractor, a landscaper, a weekend explorer, and you know better than anyone that having the right tool for the job makes life that much easier. With over 1,500 vehicles to choose from, Northwest Motorsport has the right rig for you. Check out NWMSbox.com and find hundreds of cars, trucks, and SUVs to fit your work, your life, and your style. That's Northwest Motorsport. Trucks, and more trucks.
The world of real estate is always evolving. That's more true now than ever. If you are a longtime Missoulian that is looking to upgrade or downsize, it might be the best time yet to sell. If you're in the position to buy something new, today might be the best time to buy. And no matter what questions you have when it comes to residential or commercial real estate, Mike Nugent and the professionals at Berkshire Hathaway in Missoula have your answers. To find out what Mike can do for you, give him a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
We're officially in November, which means the holiday shopping season is kicking into high gear. While it may still seem a bit early, if there was ever a time to think ahead, this is it. Bob Ward's has stocked the store and is offering up some big savings early to help you get a head start on your shopping. You'll find amazing deals on gear in skiing, hunting, fishing, camping, golfing, and athletics departments. Plus, save big on footwear and apparel. Bob Ward's, over 100 years of Montana sports and outdoors tradition. Hurry in, shop early, and save big.
For 4 years running, Colter Nuanez and the team at ESPN Missoula have captured the E.B. Craney Award for Radio Sports Coverage of the Year. Each Wednesday on Nuanez Now, the featured long-form interview of the week takes center stage. Tune in to Nuanez Now on 102.9 ESPN Missoula or SWX Montana Television to hear the Montana Radio Sportscaster of the Year conduct an in-depth interview with prominent sports figures from around Montana. The ESPN Roundtable during the 5 o'clock hour each Wednesday on Nuanez Now is proudly presented by Paradise Falls.
Football is back, and Nuanez now has everything you need to know about the weekend for the Grizzlies, the Bobcats, around the Big Sky Conference, and around the Treasure State in the prep ranks, too. Join Colter Nuanez and other contributing guests for the first hour of each Monday's Nuanez Now, beginning at 4 p.m. for compelling analysis, interesting information, interviews, and more. The Montana Football Hour, the first hour of each Monday's Nuanez Now, beginning at 4 p.m. on 102.9 ESPN Missoula and statewide on SWX Montana Television. The Montana Football Hour, presented by Stockman Bank of Montana.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that. Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana, KKVU HD3 Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula. ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
The collection of local standout football players gave pledges to both the Bobcats and the Grizzlies. Hello, I am Colter Nuanez. The most recent commitment came earlier this week as Laurel senior Bo Dantic gave his promise to Montana head coach Bobby Houck. Dantic, who's rushed for nearly 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns this season, has helped the locomotives reach the chipper for the second year in a row. Dantic is one of 11 known commitments for the upcoming recruiting class, including Hillgate wide receiver Ian Finch and Helena wideout Chase McGurran. Over the last 3 seasons, the 6'3 Finch caught 162 passes passes for 2,741 yards and 28 scores. The 6-foot McGurran caught 58 passes for 829 yards and 10 touchdowns this season. The other in-state commits for the Grizz include Helena quarterback Caden Hewitt and Helena linebacker Marcus Evans, Hamilton athlete Tyson Rostad, Jefferson athlete Joey Visser, Missoula Sentinel athlete Zach Cruz, and Kalispell Glacier kicker Patrick Rohrbach. Missoula Hellgate lineman Tommy Nielsen gave his commitment to Montana State earlier this month. He joins other Bobcat in-state commits, including Gallatin tight end Rylan Schlepp, Red Lodge lineman Burke Mastel, Florence lineman Ethan Abbott, Billings West twins Caden and Taco Dowler, and Jake Vegan, the son of head coach Brent Vegan. The Bobcats play the Grizzlies for the 120th time on the football field, high noon. Watch the Grizzly Stadium on Saturday. This ESPN Missoula Sports Center is brought to you by Selway Armory. Little clash for you on a Wednesday. Man, I'm so happy. Greatest week of the year. Thanks so much for hanging out. We are trying to make this as awesome as possible because it couldn't even be more awesome given the circumstances of the game. But we're trying to get each and every awesome person I've come across in my career involved in this because this is awesome. This is a highly anticipated, one of the most highly anticipated showdowns of the season, and we can't wait for state championship Saturday around the state of Montana, including Montana State at Montana, the 120th time. Missed anything in the first hour of the show? Some great guests to kick this thing off. Brooks Nuanez, SkylineSportsMT.com, stopped by to give us his diagnosis of what might occur on Saturday afternoon in Missoula. We also heard from Montana State head coach Brent Vegan as part of our Across the Sideline, and got y'all set up with some Grizz Hoops tickets as well. Everything from today's first hour can be found in the Nuanez Now podcast, which is proudly presented by Blackfoot Communications, Sportsbet Montana, and the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel. Time now for our ESPN Roundtable, which is our long-form interview each week here on Nuanez Now. We go to the Ringish Brothers RV phone line. Welcome in one of the best guys I've ever come across when it comes to talking Big Sky Conference football, a guy I've missed dearly, and a guy that knows the ins and outs of the Cat-Grizz rivalry about as well as anybody. It's Mike Kramer, four-time Big Sky Conference Coach of the Year, and a guy who spent multiple stints at Montana State coaching in this rivalry. Krames, what's going on, my man? How you doing?
Coulter, what in the world is happening on this great Cat-Grizz week? Man, what a deal this thing is setting up to be this coming Saturday.
Can't wait for it, man. First and foremost, before we get into some of the game and some of the Big Sky Conference in general this year, what have you been up to? I haven't talked to you in a little while. We used to talk every single week on the Big Sky Coaches Call, but I haven't talked to you in a minute. So how's things been going? Where you at?
Well, we got done in late March of 2017 and been really involved with our families, really, really close. We have two daughters and a couple grandkids, and we went through some tough times, and we survived it, and everybody's moving forward, and now we're just hanging out, enjoying life, doing a little tractor driving, which feeds my farm boy gene, and hanging out with the former All Big Sky tight end Blake Wolf and his family farm just north here of Clarkson. So we live over in eastern Washington or around our friends and family and get a chance to watch a lot of local football and a lot of TV, obviously, or a lot of Big Sky football in ESPN Plus. So it's been fun. I feel like I'm pretty much now engaged again, and it's great to talk with you, man.
Well, so good to have you here, and can't wait to get into some of this rivalry stuff. Actually saw Blake Wolf at the game in Bozeman this last weekend. He was in town, so saw him for a minute, and it was good seeing him too, for sure. But, Coach, let's start way back at the very beginning. You played your college ball at Idaho, so you have known about rivalries against the Montana Grizzlies for quite some time. So just take us through kind of your perception of it.
Well, the first thing is it's my very first game against the University of Montana was way back in 1972. Maybe it was 1872. But in that game, we beat the Grizzlies in Moscow. No dome, just no roof on the stadium. Collie Mack, a sophomore wide receiver, scored 3 touchdowns that day. And it seemed like, okay, well, I'm at Idaho, and that's Montana, and Montana's on the skids a little bit, and off we roll. And lo and behold, it was a pretty back-and-forth, give-and-take rivalry during my playing days. And at the same time, 200 miles from Missoula, down in Bozeman, Sonny Holland was getting the Bobcat program on its feet all the way towards the 1976 National Division II Championship. So during my time as a player, I really got to see and participated in and really helped in a way. I really helped the Grizzly football program rise while the Bobcats had risen to a pretty high height themselves. So I'm pretty intimately involved. I've played for a lot of guys who had Montana connections. Of course, Coach Erickson came to the University of Idaho in 1974, and he brought John McMahon out of Montana Tech. And then Mick Dennehy was a high school coach out here in Eastern Washington at my high school alma mater, Colton, and won 2 back-to-back state championships and took the job at Helena High School. In Helena, Montana, when I graduated, he said, hey, come on, let's go. And we went, and Sandy went to school at Carroll College, and she's a Fighting Saint. And we were in Montana then, 77 through 82, as a high school staff, able to look at both programs, how they ebbed and flowed a little bit. The Grizzlies, of course, under Larry Donovan, were promising that they could get something better than Dornblazer, and it really didn't seem like it was on the horizon. In the meantime, the Bobcats were struggling a little bit. They let Sonny Lubick go, who's just an outstanding Montana person and a great Bobcat football coach, and who went on to Hall of Fame career down at Colorado State, and replaced him with a series of guys that really weren't as attached to the program maybe they should be. And Dave Arnold became the head coach in 1983, and we went and hired me out the high school ranks, and we went 1-10, and I never heard the Bobcats go 1-10 ever. And the next year in '84, we got lucky in a lot of ways and performed well in a lot of ways, and went on to win the national championship. And had to do that, had to go through a great Cad Grizz game in Missoula, in which Marty Morningweg, the erstwhile great Grizzly quarterback, really staked the Grizzlies to a halftime lead. And we had to make a comeback, come from behind win, captivated by a touchdown catch by Tom Malum, a tight end out of Missoula, playing for the Bobcats. Of course, we went on to win the Big Sky Conference, go into the playoffs, play all home games, and then went all the way up to Charleston, South Carolina, and history was made. Well, in the meantime, the Grizzlies had finally decided that time to look for a new football coach. A couple of years later, they hired Don Reed, and of course, Coach Reed came in, and along with the Washington group, was able to build the stadium on campus, and all of a sudden, things started to shake for the Grizzlies. They had a quarterback who in 1985 had been a wishbone quarterback, who in 1986 became a pro and all-over-the-place quarterback, who's still on the coaching staff at the University of Montana, Brent Pease. And Brent Pease, along with Mike Rice, who ran wide receiver screen the way no one had ever seen before, allowed the Grizzlies to rise. And, of course, in an epic game in Washington Grizzly Stadium, the Grizzlies were able to just thump the Bobcats in 1986. And a week later, we were let go. We probably deserved it, too. And the Grizzlies continued to rise, had a couple shots at the national playoffs there for a while. And then it still took a while for the Grizzlies to rise all the way to the top. It took the arrival of an unheralded quarterback in Dave Dickinson and the continued efforts of a great Grizzly coaching staff to push the Grizzlies to the 1995 national championship. And by the time that Dave was a senior, he'd established that the rule changes in college football had made throwing the football down the field on every down, regardless of the situation, something that everybody could be a part of. And it was just fun to watch and fun to see. And they really, really preferred at it. They were really, really good. Of course, Coach Reed retired, and Coach Denny, who had taken me to Montana in the first place, now becomes the head coach of the University of Montana. In the meantime, I'm now at Eastern Washington. I get a chance to play against both those programs in and out a little bit every single season. And finally became a head coach in 1994. It still took us a while. We got a chance to play against the Grizzlies in 1997, our stellar year at Eastern Washington in Missoula. And we're able to get out of town with a win. And that really, really captivated or catapulted the Eastern Washington program forward in its own right. And that culminated, of course, in the 2010 national championship. But go back to the University of Montana. The University of Montana, under John Edwards in 2001, won a national title under Coach Dennehy. And things were just, or under Coach Glenn, and things were just going fantastic for the Grizzlies. In the meantime, the Bobcats got mired in a cat grizz ditch. They just couldn't find a way out. And finally, after 2 years of trying, and when I became the head coach again at Montana State University in 2000, we found a way to make enough plays on a snowy Saturday afternoon, and the rest was history. 10-7 was the final, and since then the game has twisted back and forth a little bit, and in the later years, in the last couple of years, it seemed like the Bobcats have held sway over the Grizzlies in this game. And so I know how Bobby feels. I'm very close friends with Bobby. He's been one of those guys that from the day that I got let go at Montana State in 2007, he was a guy that's been on the phone, texting me, calling me, making sure I'm okay for all my tractor driving, combine driving, and all the travels and travails of family and stuff like that. And he stayed pretty tight, and I've always deeply appreciated it. I consider him an outstanding friend, and I'm rooting very, very hard for Bobby, and I'm rooting very hard for both teams to have a great game on Saturday.
Well, it's so great to have you back, Coach. Mike Kramer joining us here on Nuanez, now ESPN Radio. Your memory and your way to articulate it is just second to none, man. You're if you ever want to come out of retirement, you're hired. You can come hang out with us all the time if you ever want to. Mike Kramer joining us here on the ESPN Roundtable. It's Nuanez Now. You can also find it at SWX Montana Television. Coach, you've been between your stops as an assistant at Montana State, head coach at Eastern Washington, head coach at Montana State, and head coach at Idaho State. You've had many matchups with both of these schools. Both as the head coach at Montana State, but then also against the Bobcats several times as well. But just compare and contrast, and do you remember some of the epic moments that you've had in each stadium? Because they are two of, if not the two best venues in the entire league.
Well, they certainly are, and they weren't when I began this I began being involved in this program. Dornblazer was just a temporary venue for a lot of years. The thought was that they would be able to get to the stadium that they have now. I actually saw those plans on my recruiting trip in the fall of 1971, and it wouldn't be until the fall of 86 that would get done. So in the meantime, it just seemed like that was the yo-yo that just kept dragging down complete staffs and generations of football and legions of football players at the University of Montana. And then when I became an assistant coach for Dave Arnold in '83, it was the only game we won.
That's amazing. The only game you win is the Bobcat Grizz game.
If you're going to win a game in this rivalry, you better win that game. And that, of course, allowed us to stay on site for the next year, which culminated the national championship. And the year after that, in 1985, down in Bozeman, we won 2 games, which is one of the most tremendous leaps up in record from 83 to 84, and one of the most precipitous falls from 84 to 85 I've ever heard of. So you go 12-2 to 2-9, but one of those 2 games, of course, came against the Grizzlies in Bozeman, and we were able to win that ball game. And we had a short leash on life, I would say, because we really didn't get much better the next year. We were a little young on defense, and even though Kelly Bradley had been the MVP of the league and first-team All-American quarterback as a sophomore, the cast on the offense had changed so dramatically that by his senior season, he was no longer that kind of elite quarterback. And so by the time we get to the Cat Grizz game in 1986, man, we are hanging on. Well, I'll tell you a great story, though. So we lined up in a defense in which our corners would go to the same side as the wide receivers. And the Grizzlies had played a lot of 4 wide receiver that year, but they'd also played a little bit of tight end. On the very first play of the game, Scott Guernsey lines up at wide tight end, in tight, and that matched him up against our strong safety. And, of course, Brett Pease took the snap, went back and heaved it down the field to Guernsey, who outraced our safety for like a 90-yard gain. I don't know. It seemed like it was a 1,000-yard gain in one play, and we never recovered. One play, one great coaching move by the Grizzlies, and a great execution on the play by Pease and by Guernsey. And all those years that Scott was doing the Grizzly games with the color guys, I was thinking, God dang, that guy just got away from us on that play. He was a good football player, and he made a great play, and it really elevated this whole event into something new because, of course, the stadium was new that year. And while the Bobcats were years away from making improvements to Reno Sales Stadium, which it was called then, it helped motivate and kick a lot of people in the butt about Grizzly football and then eventually Bobcat football. And now these are the two preeminent programs at our level in the United States.
They absolutely are. This is a top 10 showdown on Saturday, but I've been thinking that this is even more than that. I still think that no matter what happens on Saturday, these two teams are certainly Final Four contenders and certainly in the mix for national championships. So, Coach, I know you've been following this a little bit. Do you have any takes on these two programs? Because I think yourself as a defensive guy, you must love the way that both these schools are playing defense right now.
Well, both head coaches, they start with 5 teams, and then they move to defense, and then offense is something you wear like an overcoat. It's a necessary evil. Not that they both dissuade themselves from being offensive masterminds, but they certainly don't allow either offense to just go off, and just do things that would endanger the other two aspects of the sport. And I think that's where you find quality staff work, quality coaching, quality leadership, quality understanding of what it really, really does take. Yeah, there are guys like Mike Leach who can have a nice career regardless of how the defense is playing, but he hasn't shown that he can get to that elite level. Whereas here we are, 2 top 10 teams at the FCS level, and they're playing primarily on the basis of great defense, solid special teams, and an offense that really doesn't get in the way. And both offenses have had moments this season where they've been pretty darn good, and they have both struggled, and it's been a head-scratcher for probably both coaching staffs, and that things have slowed down a little bit for the Bobcats, and the Grizzlies have fought a disastrous slew of injuries on their offensive side of the ball. So, on the other hand, both teams featured two or three of the all-time great Bobcat or Grizzly defensive players that we'll be talking about for 50 years from now. The Anderson kid at Bozeman has just had an outstanding guy, an outstanding career, and Robbie Hout is the second leading tackler in the Big Sky Conference, playing for his father in the secondary at the University of Montana. Both teams don't make mistakes on defense. Both teams don't gamble on defense. Both teams would love to make this game, again, another 10-7 backyard. Some people say phone booth. I say chicken coop fight. They want to fight and scratch and claw and dig at each other until one of them's laying in the corner squawking.
ESPN Roundtable, long-time Big Sky Conference football coach Mike Kramer joining us here on Nuanez Now, 102.9 ESPN Radio, as well as SWX Montana Television. And, Coach, I want to circle back to something you said there that I have found so fascinating in my time covering this stuff is the paramount and sometimes ultimate nature that both sides, both athletic departments put on this game, and we've seen it pretty much consistently over the last 25 to 30 years where if you're taking care of business against the rival, everything else is almost secondary. I know that there was spurts of time where Montana was taking care of the rival as well as competing on a national level, but we've seen multiple Bobcat coaches that can't get over the top against the Grizz, and that be the end of their time at Montana State, regardless of whatever else they do. We've seen it at Montana as well. Bob Stitt was in the playoffs 2 times in 3 years. That's definitely not the standard at Montana, but it wasn't as if he was having multiple losing seasons in a row, yet he couldn't get over the top against the Cats, and that was a defining factor in him as well. So what do you think of that dynamic of it? Is it too emphasized amongst the success of a football team, or how do you balance the rivalry with then chasing national prominence and playoff runs?
Well, culture, there's a lot of things that go into what your question is framed as. And I think I can best answer it by saying that for some reason, and it's a phenomenon, sport has become important. And the existential reach of what sport outcomes can be cloud a lot of the real things that are really, really important to both schools. And what happens is you win, everything is good. You lose, everything's bad. It's just that simple. You can't couch it in any other terms other than to say that, hey, there's no record, there's no previous, there's no excuses. You either do or don't. Period. And with that being said, I think every coach that's taken a job as a head coach and as assistant coach at either one of the two schools know what's at stake. They have. And it's just the way it has gone. And I think those 16 years or 17 years or whatever it was, I think it accentuated, made it hyper important that somehow, some way, something like that doesn't get away again. And now we find the Grizzly fans chewing on their fingers, chewing on their fingernails, biting their kids' head off. Hey. Not really. And you find Bobcats thinking, oh, God, maybe this is not the year we're going to continue on in our domination. Hopefully we can, and hopefully we'll do it right. We got a new head coach. Brett's never been involved in this yet. So I'm sure that he's had some conversation with people he considers to be close friends, good boosters, great advisors that have actually.
We might have lost Mike Kramer, ESPN Roundtable, SWX Montana Television, as well as ESPN Radio. What a phenomenal storyteller. I forgot how much I missed talking to that guy. We do have a few minutes left, so we'll try to get Coach Kramer back just to put a bow on this thing real quick. But ESPN Roundtable is presented by Paradise Falls in Missoula. Paradise Falls, 30 draft beers, 18 big screen TVs, breakfast, lunch, dinner. They got early and late happy hour. It's a great place to go watch and hang out. You can get yourself some lunch, then maybe, sample a beer. Watch multiple different college football games. They'll have all sorts of college and high school action going on down there all weekend. Then, obviously, on Sunday, the NFL as well. Paradise Falls, the proud presenter of the ESPN Roundtable. Go check them out at 3621 Brook Street in Missoula, Paradise Falls. Missoula's coolest hotspot. We got Mike Kramer back. Coach, sorry we got cut off there for a minute, but it is the phenomenon of it all and maybe the higher priority on winning rather than all the other benefits that come from sport, a fascinating thing.
And I think it gets emphasized a little bit more and more every year, and that's good. Both teams, both schools have put a tremendous amount of resources into making their facilities showcase their football team's talent. And so there's always a lot riding on every Saturday at home, let alone this Saturday, whether it's in Missoula or in Bozeman. And I think and really, Coulter, it's really fun. It really is fun. Even, and we lost there in 2004 and then again in 2006. And on the way home, the last thing I was suicidal about it because I knew we had played well. We were playing against a great program, a great heritage, and awesome fans. And that's the Grizzly fans have taught the Bobcat fans how to be. They really have. I couldn't wait to go into Grizzly Stadium when I was an assistant coach at Eastern Washington after the stadium had really gotten rocking and rolling. And it was fun. It still is. It's still a great place to go. And the Bobcats have just emulated that, not just with facilities and not just with money, but with enthusiasm and vocals and the band and everything. Everything's good. So I'm pretty proud of the fact that both schools are doing so well, and I'm looking forward to a great game on Saturday.
Absolutely a great game. Two more things for you, Coach, and thanks so much for spending time with us. It's been awesome talking to you. Love catching up. Love listening to your stories. But you mentioned Brent Vigen, though, and Coach Vigen's done a phenomenal job at Montana State in year one. I think that the biggest piece of credit you could give him is how steady-handed he has been. It's very fun to watch him coaching games because he is so objectively different than so many of the guys I've been around at the Montana schools. And but his ability to get his playmakers the ball has been very impressive. His ability to absolutely ride the awesome defense that they have that's led by Troy Anderson and spearheaded by Chase Benson, one of the best interior guys in the league, has been awesome. But, Coach, he has never coached in this game before. What's it like going in the belly of the beast in Missoula for the first time?
You know what? I know a lot of words, buddy. It's something. You know, it begins, you know, really as that last seconds tick off the clock of the last game last Saturday night. And by Sunday, you know, you've already got that pit in your stomach. And then by Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, you know, you're trying to do everything you can to, you know, stay the course, be a leader, show your people that it's not going to be that, you know, it's not going to be that uphill. And then on Friday, as you roll down to Missoula, you just have to enjoy the trip and look out there and see lots of other people doing lots of other things that are probably not going to really care about it. Because by the time you get into town on Friday night, it seems like now everybody's aiming at you. So, to me, and because it's not akin to combat, it's not akin to a battle, it's not war. It's exercise of your opportunity athletically to the utmost and the most extreme at our level. And I just think that's the most fun. That's why you coach. You know, there's a lot of other games this Saturday in the Big Sky Conference. A lot of other teams are playing, and they will not even come close to what this is all about. And that's why this thing, where it's scheduled and how it's scheduled, just keeps the season alive for everybody all the way down to the bitter end. And I know, you know, you talk about Ohio State, Michigan, and Texas, Oklahoma, and you go on to, you know, Florida, Alabama, or whatever. You can keep going on and on and on. But this one is personal. This one is about grade school kids wanting to grow up to be Bobcats or Grizzlies. This is about junior high kids deciding where they want to go to college when they get in after they get out of high school, based upon who's been successful and the perception that maybe place is more well run or better run. So a lot comes out of this game that's not just about the doggerel of the win-loss record.
No doubt about it. Awesome perspective. Last thing for you then, Coach. Mike Kramer joining us here on Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. This game, what do you think, not to the deciding factor, but what could be the thing that tips the pendulum? Because to me, when I look at it on paper, break it down, there's a lot of advantages on each side. I think that each side has distinct advantages in terms of matchups and things like that. But when it all plays out, I think it's basically a stalemate. So what is the thing that can make the pendulum swing one way or the other in the favor of these two teams on Saturday?
Culture and the history of this thing, and not just the recent history, but the overall history of this thing, it has come down to one little thing at the very end. What was it, 4 years ago, when the Montana State defensive lineman was able to cause a fumble on the goal line as the Grizzlies were going in for the go-ahead touchdown? Was that 2 years ago?
That was 2018, so that's the last time the game was in Missoula.
My goodness. So with that being said, I think of everything, you know, all the plays. I can remember almost every single play for all the years I've coached in this game. And I can remember that play in and of itself. And so maybe it's the last play. Seriously, this could be a last play deal because the defenses are pretty tight. The kick teams are very solid. The offenses are they're not Eastern Washington level, but they're also going to be coached and led by guys who are going to be pretty dang careful. I mean, you say turnovers, turnovers can come in a lot of forms. They can come into the wind. They can come at the end of a quarter or at the end of a half. They can come in a 3 and out or a 4 and out. You know, you can call them not necessarily a fumble or interception. They just cause something to all of a sudden swing the momentum. But for the Bobcats to hold on, hang in there, hold on, hang in there for 59 minutes and 20 seconds or whatever it was, to cause the game-winning fumble in the last play epitomizes exactly what this game can be about for both teams. You can never, ever say it's over. You can never, ever say, oh, we don't have a chance. Because the fans will be there, the fans will be rolling, your emotions will get the most of you, and then emotion will run out, and then coaching will run out, and then athletic ability will run out, and all that's going to be left then is guts. And so I don't know how you measure guts. I wish I knew. I wish I put a dipstick in a kid and say, okay, well, he's got 95% guts or 98% guts. You never know until you get in this game and you can make these kind of plays. And since this game is now being played in front of a, I wouldn't say COVID-less society, but a COVID-restricted society, it's still not quite going to be the fearsome crowd that we've come to expect with this game. Hopefully, in years to come, everybody will either get vaccinated or this thing will disappear, and we'll be able to get back to what we consider to be normal, the third last Friday in November, Cat Grizz.
Can't wait, man. You got me all pumped up already. Thanks so much for joining us, Crims. You're the man. Hope to talk to you soon. I'll be in touch with you, but appreciate you taking so much time here today.
Great, Coulter. Love you. You do a great job. You got a great show. You got a great piece of Montana with you now, and I loved everything you guys are doing. So thanks very much for having me on.
Mike Kramer, the best there is, the best there was, man. What a guy. Love that guy. I think he went for 10 minutes before he took a breath in that opening history lesson. I promised you it was going to be great. That was even better than I thought it was going to be. Krames has been saving up for a while. What a sweet interview. Gotta love Mike Kramer. Thanks so much for swinging by. That was awesome. It's the ESPN Roundtable presented by Paradise Falls. How about another phenomenal storyteller who was also a memorable head coach in this great rivalry, Joe Glenn, the head coach of the 2001 national champion Grizzlies, stops by. Nuanez now. Keep it right here, ESPN Radio. Hey, it's Coulter Nuanez from Nuanez Now, here with Brent Wahlberg of the Wahlberg team at Windermere Real Estate. It's a complicated real estate market right now. What do you think is the biggest challenge?
This is a real tough market for buyers because what we have right now is an unprecedented lack of available options, low supply. You have to be extra competitive. You've got to make your first offer your strongest offer. Experts like myself in this market can really help people do that.
Call Brent Wahlberg and the Wahlberg team at 529-4663 today. Why build a work history at a job when you can build a future in your own business? Westpac Wealth Partners is looking for entrepreneurial-minded people who are ready to take their future into their own hands. Nick Tabor and his associates provide clients with financial tools and tested solutions for navigating this complex financial climate. Westpac Wealth also has a work culture that has been recognized as a best workplace in Fortune magazine. If you're ready to start building a business in a long-term career, apply at westpacwealth.com. Westpac Wealth Partners, LLC is not an affiliate or subsidiary of PAS or Guardian. Insurance products offered through Westpac Wealth Partners and Insurance Services, LLC, a DBA of Westpac Wealth Partners, LLC.
Like most Montanans, we love a good steak. And because we're the Montana Club, we take the steaks we serve very seriously. We're confident to say that our custom grilled steaks are as good a steak as you're going to get. Now we're proud to add regularly sourced, naturally raised Castle Rock bison ribeye to our selection. And remember, the Montana Club steak entrees include the sides. Come into the Montana Club today for an unrivaled steak experience. The Montana Club on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
We're officially in November, which means the holiday shopping season is kicking into high gear. While it may still seem a bit early, if there was ever a time to think ahead, this is it. Bob Ward's has stocked the store and is offering up some big savings early to help you get a head start on your shopping. You'll find amazing deals on gear in skiing, hunting, fishing, camping, golfing, and athletics departments. Plus, save big on footwear and apparel. Bob Ward's, over 100 years of Montana sports and outdoors tradition. Hurry in, shop early, and save big.
So you're sad College Game Day isn't coming to Missoula? I got news for you. College Game Day has always been in Missoula. ESPN Missoula has been the proud host of our ESPN Twisted Tailgate all season long and for the last 5 years. So if you need someone to get all ready for Saturday's showdown with Montana State coming to the Garden City to take on Montana, swing on down and hang out with me, Coulter Nuanez, and all my good buddies as we get you prepped for the 120th edition of the fiercest rivalry in college football. Our ESPN College Game Day comes to you live starting at 10 a.m. on Saturday from the Chamber of Commerce parking lot. We will have drinks courtesy of the Badlander. Pepsi Cola will be on hand serving some beverages. We'll also have swag from all our great sponsors, including RV Truck Sales, Ryan Holloway and Miller, Alpine Touch, and Twisted Tea. Don't be sad. Come hang out with us at our ESPN Missoula College Game Day Twisted Tailgate beginning at 10 a.m. from the Chamber of Commerce parking lot. We'll see you there. Happy Wednesday. Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. I'm Colter Nuanez, broadcasting to you from the Northwest Motorsports Studio. We give away Alpine Touch every Monday. We're giving away a boatload of stuff from Alpine Touch this weekend. Keep those entries coming in. You got 2.5 more days to enter. Friday's show, we'll be picking 2 numbers out of the hat. So keep those entries coming in. All you got to do is follow us on Instagram, subscribe to our podcast, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also do the same for Alpine Touch and Haymaker Beef for their Instagram channels. ESPN Missoula, Haymaker Beef, Alpine Touch. Instagram, follow us. Then, podcast Nuanez Now, YouTube Nuanez Now. Subscribe. Text us 406-888-1029. Keep those entries rolling in. We got today, tomorrow, and Friday. You got all the way up until 5 o'clock on Friday to get entered in. But I can't tell you how much stuff we got up front for you. Outside of this studio right here, we got a big grill and OtterBox, courtesy of Twisted Tea. We also have a giant prize package from Alpine Touch that also will include a beef box from Haymaker Beef delivered to your front door. We also have a Traeger grill out here, Traeger smoker out front. So you're going to get that Traeger smoker, a beef box from Haymaker Beef, as well as a whole bunch of Alpine Touch. I got the sunflower seeds right here in my hand. I can't wait to eat some of those a little later on. And we also have some barbecue sauce, got the all-purpose, got the pepper blend, got the chili lime. We got all of it. So keep those entries rolling in right now. Text it once you do all that stuff. Subscribe and follow. Haymaker Beef, Alpine Touch, ESPN Missoula. And then text us, 888-1029. That's 888-1029. Well, happy now for an episode I've been looking forward to for quite some time. It's Grizz Greats, the 20th anniversary of the 2001 national champions, and our podcast guest today, none other than the head coach of that team, Joe Glenn. Coach, thanks so much for joining us. This is a thrill for me as a guy that grew up in Missoula. I was about 14 or 15 years old when you were the head coach at Montana, and it was always so fun for me to follow your teams, and that love of football has carried me now into my career, so I have to thank you first and foremost. But thanks so much for spending some time with us, and how you doing?
Well, you bet. You're welcome. I'm glad to spend some time with you and share some wonderful memories regarding our team, and I know my son Casey Glenn and you have a friendship and have been buddies for a while. So glad to help you out if we can, and glad to talk that team up any chance I get. They were the reunion was fabulous, and but just being around the guys and some of the coaches that were on the staff, and it just was really a Kodak moment in our lives, and we re-entered that moment a little bit at the reunion, and it was so special. I got to tell you, the staff in the athletic department just did a fabulous job of entertaining the old timers and making them feel welcome and special, and they just really threw out the dog, and it was a great time was had by all. Only thing that
we'll start there then. We'll start with the here and now first before we get into a little bit more of what this last, I guess a couple weekends ago now, was like for you and all your former players. Yeah. Where's Joe Glenn at in the world? What have you been doing these last couple years? Where are you making your home these days?
Michelle and I live in Eagle, Idaho. It's a suburb of Boise, and we are kind of calling this home for right now. We wanted to be around our grandchildren, and we got 2 in Lincoln and 2 here in Eagle, and they're playing. Reagan Glenn is playing volleyball for Bishop Kelly, and was on the JV team this year, and they won the district. And Donovan Joseph Glenn is playing tackle football for his first season. He's been a couple years playing flag football, but his dad, Casey Glenn, is a former football coach at Oklahoma and Wyoming, South Dakota, and he coached the offensive line so he could get his hands on his son in 5th grade. So, but they won every doggone game until the last one, and but I think they ended up 7-1. And the head coach, I might add, is one of our favorites. That he was on that team and couldn't be it, but we are just fabulously happy that we're here and able to be a part of our family's life, and just really fortunate.
Well, nothing better than chasing grandkids around. That's a sure thing for sure. Well, tell us about a couple weekends ago. It was the 20th anniversary celebration for the 2001 national champions, and that must have been a crazy full circle moment for you, seeing all your players now as guys in their early 40s with their own families. But what did you think? I mean, what was the experience like coming back to Missoula, being celebrated like that, and also meeting up with a whole bunch of guys you had a huge influence on?
Yeah, Coulter, it was just fabulous. And just, I got to tell you, now, it's an old expression, but it was almost like you're drinking out of a fire hydrant. I mean, here's some of the most special athletes you ever had a chance to coach that won the national championship and brought the chipper home. And it just, to see them as, fathers now and husbands, and they're all just as successful in that as they were in football. And I get it. They're just good people. And I don't even how to really tell you how wonderful it was. Just everybody was so glad to see each other, and they had a really great bond as student athletes, and I have to say this, that I coached 42 years. That's by far the most, as I said it, unselfish team that I had ever been a part of. I mean, everybody wants to score touchdowns, and everybody wants to kick a field goal, and everybody wants to complete a pass or catch one, and they didn't care. And be real honest with you, one of the major strengths of that team was from tight end to tight end, and even put the fullbacks in there. We had guys that were big and strong up front, and we can even get into the height and weight of some of those guys maybe in this call, just to make people realize how we managed the line of scrimmage, not just in the championship game, which was special, but also throughout the season. And so it was, and Johansi Humphrey was All-American. However, Johansi, you never heard him say, I want the ball, or somebody else throw me the ball, or, I'm open, you guys, none of that going on. And, of course, we were under the leadership of John Edwards, the quarterback, who now practices law in Billings. And John, he still, to this day, could care less who scores the touchdown or who caught it or who threw it. He just wanted to win, as did almost every single player on the team. That old deal about credit, it just, they were so humble. And I will tell you, it's the best offensive line I ever had. Then you throw in a couple fullbacks that could be a part of that front, and they would block the in-wheel seal or the backside on some of our zone plays that we ran. And so Johansi had a great chance to cut it back if they really played the front side hard. And our fullbacks blocked like offensive linemen. But
a snippet of our Grizz Greats episode. That was only about 8 to 10 minutes of the great storytelling. So go find that on all your podcast hosting platforms. Grizz Greats, the 20th anniversary of the 2001 national champion Grizzlies. Grizz Greats is proudly presented by Blackfoot Communications as well as First Security Bank of Missoula. Appreciate everybody that's participated in the Grizz Greats podcast series so far. We'll still have a couple more episodes to finish out the series before the end of the year. They're very fun to do. We'll probably actually even have a couple into January as well to finish off that 20-episode run commemorating the Montana football team's most recent national championship. Out of the football and into the football, a little soccer for you. What happened in Pullman? University of Montana was in their third NCAA tournament in 4 years. Andrew Houghton will give us an update right after this. Well, happy now for an episode.
Open your new Stockman Bank account anytime, anywhere with online account opening. Now, you can open an account in minutes on your laptop, tablet, or mobile phone. It's convenient, simple, and secure. Open your new account today at stockmanbank.com. Then, add our online and mobile banking services so you can manage your money when, where, and how you want. Stockman Bank, Montana's brand of banking. Member FDIC.
Paul Ryan is a name that's been synonymous with law around the Garden City for decades. And Paul is excited to announce the expansion of his firm to Ryan, Holloway, and Miller. Paul Ryan, Nate Holloway, and Angie Miller have a fierce love for their community, and they want to help you with any of your legal needs. From auto accidents to medical malpractice to wrongful death or any criminal defense, Ryan, Holloway, and Miller should be your first call. When it comes to personal injury or criminal defense, call Ryan, Holloway, and Miller today. Ryan, Holloway, and Miller, your Montana attorneys.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
Hey there, Colter Nuanez from Nuanez Now, your favorite daily sports talk show. My family first moved to Missoula in 1993. The last time the Garden City hosted a Class AA state championship was the following year. Friday night, Missoula County Public Stadium, the top-ranked Sentinel Spartans gunned for their second consecutive Class AA state title. The second-ranked Billings West Golden Bears in town for a rematch of last year's state championship game. It's an awesome opportunity for the city of Missoula. So if you have a chance, head on down to Missoula County Public Stadium and support some of the best athletes from around the state of Montana. And if you can't make it, or even if you can, be sure to tune in to Nuanez Now each weekday from 4 to 6 p.m. right here on 102.9 ESPN Missoula for all your lead-up and recap coverage of state championship football games from around the Treasure State. Nuanez Now and ESPN Missoula, proud to bring you the best in prep football coverage all season long.
Hey, son, how are you feeling?
I'm fine, Pops.
What's on your mind?
I can't explain it. Navigating without a compass, eyes waiting, started to wonder. Metamorphosis, the loss of who you thought you was.
When your kid can't find the language, help them find the lyrics. Listen to the Sound It Out album and get tips and tools to start a conversation at sounditouttogether.org. Brought to you by Ad Council and Pivotal Ventures.
It's Nuanez Now on 102.9 ESPN Missoula. Watch the show statewide on SWX Montana Television.
Has to be one of the greatest beginnings to one of the greatest albums of all time. A little Metallica for you here on a Wednesday. It makes me feel like it's a Friday. I can't wait, but I can't all at the same time. I'm actually having major anxiety thinking about the fact this is the last time I'm ever going to see Jace Lewis and Troy Anderson play in Bobcat Grizz games. this like becomes a part of your life because you watch these teams so much. Obviously, I mean, it is my entire life. That's all I do is cover Big Sky Conference sports. But it's going to be an awesome day on Saturday, and it'll be fun sort of celebrating all the great athletes from around the state of Montana. Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. Everything from today's show, whether it's Brooks Nuanez, Brent Vegan, Mike Kramer, or Joe Glenn, can be found on the podcast, proudly presented by Blackfoot Communications, Sportsbet Montana, and the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel. Bring in now, just for a quick minute, Andrew Houghton. We'll probably hash this out a little bit more and probably have a postseason type interview with Chris Chidovitsky, the head coach from the UM women's soccer team. But Andrew, you were in Pullman, Washington last weekend to cover the Grizz in the NCAA women's soccer tournament. Just your thoughts? I mean, how far away is Montana? Because they have consistently reached this point. What's the next step for this program?
Well, it's really interesting, and this is something that I've thought about a lot. I mean, I wrote a little story on Skyline Sports about it. They're to the place right now where they can compete with these teams. I thought they competed really well with Washington State. They had a chance to take the lead in the first half when Allie Monroe put a shot off the top of the crossbar.
3-0 was the final score of this game, by the way, but the Grizz did have it at just 1-0 for most of the first three quarters of the game.
It was 1-0 until the final 12 minutes.
There you go, yeah.
you know, you're one play away from possibly going to penalty kicks where it's anybody's game. The difference is that they have to play so much different from how they usually play to compete with these teams. They have to bunker a little bit. They have to defend a lot more. They don't have the chances. So they're at a point where they can do that against a lot of the teams in the country. The next step for me is being able to play your game and attack and possess the ball a little bit against these teams, and I don't know if they ever get to that point. I mean, it's such a huge step, especially in a game like soccer where, you know, you can bunker and defend and hope the other team doesn't score, even though they have possession and everything. But to actually, be playing your game against these teams is a lot more difficult. So I'm excited to see if Chris Chidovitsky can get the program to a place where they can do that, but they played really well for the game plan that they had against Washington State, kept it close until the end. It was a great atmosphere in Pullman. Super happy I went.
Super happy you went as well. Thank you, Andrew. Very good. We will continue our coverage of Grizz soccer, one of the best things going in the state of Montana right now for any of the Big Sky Conference programs in the Treasure State. Tomorrow, big day coming at you. Dane Oliver, Missoula Sentinel, Rob Stanton, Billings West. Get you all prepped up for Friday night's state championship game here in Missoula. First one since 1994. Our good friend Carolyn, the Chicken Doesn't Know Sports, she has apparently got 20 questions ready for us here as well, and we'll have a whole bunch of other great interviews and insight for you. 4 p.m. tomorrow right here on ESPN Radio as well as SWX Montana Television. It's Nuanez Now. Have yourself a phenomenal evening.
Open your new Stockman Bank account anytime, anywhere with online account opening. Now, you can open an account in minutes on your laptop, tablet, or mobile phone. It's convenient, simple, and secure. Open your new account today at